Uh, Good afternoon, good morning. I know that I'm right between the lunch, so I'll make it very brief. There's been a lot talked about the digital transformation that's happening in India and all the great numbers that were thrown out there. Many of you here, typically, we've been asked this question, what is BlackBerry? So just so you know, we are very much around here. Now, as a company, many of the CIOs of the industry, many of the leaders in this IT industry and security business, banking, started their careers with BlackBerry. And that journey has continued. On a personal front, on a lighter note, the conversations have changed. 4 years ago, when I took over BlackBerry business for Southeast Asia, from a point where, hey, have you negotiated your retrenchment package and what do you do, to a point where, hey, you're now acquiring companies. You acquired 6 companies soon. It's been an amazing journey. And many of the banking customers here in this room, insurance companies, global banks, law firms, have experienced that transformation with BlackBerry. Our vision is very simple and has been the same case for the last 30 years, to make a safer world, to give a cyber security or a cyber highway to the world. From the most secure devices, leveraging that capability to ensuring that the enterprises are securing any kind of platform today, whether it be all the operating systems that people use, the Android devices, the iOS devices, Windows, Macs, whatnot, to applications and to people and processes. In terms of doing that, we've got to have a mission of securing the enterprise of things. And typically, in terms of, if you look at, I think there was a lot of talk about 10 years, that in the last 10 years, India has moved forward. In the last 20 years, things have changed. For some reason, every 10 years, there is a massive shift in the way technology helps the community, helps the countries to evolve further. And what's been happening is really change happening from whether it's a consumer play or an enterprise play, but helping enterprises, forcing enterprises to really adopt technology. Technology providers who've developed applications or platforms hadn't even realized that how this could be used. And the customers really changed the way they were consuming content, consuming services. Banking changed. The banks are not a bank anymore. An auto company is not an auto company anymore. Most of the banks that I work with, we see that they are pretty much digital development centers now. They're developing applications in the US, in Vietnam, in India, in South Africa. And how are they delivering and managing that content delivery to their customers is really defining their productivity gains for their employees. So that enterprise of things really is, and when I'm saying, we're talking about mobility at the moment. However, what we see is that banks or any industry leader, whether it's a healthcare agency, whether it's a law enforcement agency, they are talking about things that not very far from now we'll be talking to robots, we'll be talking to Alexa speakers in our meeting rooms, we'll be delivering content through different ways that branchless banking or a branchless healthcare medicine being delivered will be changing the way we consume that service. That really is where we see an opportunity for BlackBerry to be a leader in that space. In today's time, we serve pretty much all the leading governments in the world, G7 of 7, 17 of 20, the global banks, insurance companies. And when you think BlackBerry, don't think devices. And even when you think enterprise, don't think mobile devices. That's been around. I think we've got to kind of start thinking that the generations to come are going to be talking about, just the way you consume the content. Think about a way of, in the morning, you're looking at your mirror, and you're actually deciding that, okay, which meetings to take in the morning. Now, that will come, where you don't have any mobile devices, really. My son doesn't do 14 into 13 on a mobile device. He talks to Alexa, and he then delivers that. Hey, 14 into 13 is this, because Alexa said that. And that's where this whole banking experience will change. And these are introducing great opportunities for businesses to transform. There was a talk about the PDS and the EDCs, as they call in Indonesia, one of our leading customers. They've actually launched a satellite of their own. Now, it's unusual for a bank to launch a satellite. But this particular bank, BRI, they actually launched a satellite of their own to serve. They're very big on microbanking. 10,000 Indonesian rupiah equivalent to $1 US, is important for every customer of theirs. They've got over 30 million micro-banking customers across Indonesia which are served through their satellite. And it's a truly digital, paperless loan management approval process, a bank account opening process. The DigiBanks and some of the other processes in India have also replicated that kind of a model. So that's really changing the way people are banking. And this is where BlackBerry's core strengths of secure mobility help in protecting the mobile workforce. And when I say mobile workforce, it's not the Poojas and the Viveks of the bank. It's really your processes, your applications, your partners, your third party. Every bank has their agents and partners that they work with. There is a lot of talk about data privacy and security across the world. And that's where the physical and digital things that people talk about. It's really been a very different consumption pattern when it comes to financial services. We've seen customers really evolve their strategies from managing an endpoint device to really looking at how do we secure data on an application without the need of a device management or any kind of those capabilities. The way the physical and digital worlds mixing is really amazing. Robots are, we have one of the customers in Singapore doing visual collaboration through Woozy glasses. We have nuclear power plants being, in a nuclear power plant scenario, it's a very interesting scenario where the PowerPoint subject matter expert sits in somewhere in Germany or in India, and someone in the power plant is actually collaborating through visual collaboration and taking guidance on what to do next. Now that thing, that process, if somebody was to get into that process, can be pretty catastrophic for an enterprise, for a community, for a country as well. And banking is pretty similar as well. It's, banking, healthcare. Today, if you think about CTG machines, BlackBerry is very strong in the healthcare vertical as well, securing CTG machines, glucose meters, because everything on that regard is also a thing that can really affect a hospital or a health of an individual. So financial inclusion will come through other verticals and ecosystems playing together as well. It's, this identity piece that we're talking about earlier, that's going to be one of the biggest topics of cybersecurity relevance as we move forward. So the goal today was, okay, digital transformation happening, but what are the barriers? And why should, despite all those barriers, should companies and businesses, banking, insurance companies move forward? Now the challenge with every technical, well, not exactly technical, even at a business level, at an employee level as well. In some of the customers in Asia, IT people in the bank are concerned that, hey, if I put an agent on the device, my employees feel that they are being tracked. So it's not just a security issue, it's also a privacy issue that is a perception issue. It's a different thing that they can be tracked by many different ways on consumer apps anyways. But when it comes to enterprise applications, the enterprises have to make sure that it is a consensual acceptance from their employees and making sure that their privacy is respected as well. In terms of the attack vectors, it's really changed the whole way of attacks, right? The funny thing with the world is the good guys don't talk, the bad guys always talk to each other. And that's been the norm in cyber. It's been very sophisticated, very targeted attacks. It's no longer a DDoS attack or a specific mobile device being attacked. It's very, very targeted. There's a lot of social engineering involved in it. There's a lot of digital engineering and sophisticated ways of getting inside the data, both in terms of an enterprise breach as well as a personal breach. And in healthcare, in financial breaches, yes, your credit card information could be lost and you could revoke access, you could revoke the payments. But when it comes to healthcare, I don't want to be that X-ray that got leaked out. I don't want my kid's knee to be that picture that got leaked out. So in healthcare also there are lots of challenges that come along with the brutality of attack is so severe that security becomes a big challenge in terms of digital transformation. Now, everybody, whether you're a pharma company, whether you're a bank, insurance, auto, legal, cement, Fonterra Foods, or a dairy company, everyone is going through a digital transformation. The whole smart city concept is really different industries gelling together, trying to figure out how we make ourselves smarter. And that introduces a lot of advancements, there's a lot of transformation that comes through it, but the biggest barrier is today being the security aspects of it. I think many of the speakers today talked about that. It does give productivity gains. For a bank, for example, most of the banks in Asia and many in the Western banks used to have branch banking. And branch banking today has CCTVs. They've got some of the banks in India and Indonesia, Philippines have even armed guards outside those banks. And the most profitable part of their business is really digital banking. But they don't put those armed guards, those CCTVs, and those checks and balances on their digital applications. But because it's physically seen from a branch banking that, hey, I'm more secure if I have a guard outside. But that's where the shift is starting to happen. Banks are being, the brand reputation of a customer's data being leaked out is becoming so important for their brand that if they are not looking at this angle in terms of developing applications, in terms of protecting their mobile workforce, what if a disgruntled employee, you ask any CEO in the world what keeps them awake? It's not technology, it's not economy, it's that one employee who can bring down their company, who can bring down that status that has been built over years. A company like BlackBerry, BlackBerry trust, security, mobility goes in one line and nobody questions it because we embody that philosophy of layered security. And every bank and insurance company is pretty similar. When we are going for an insurance plan, we are not buying a product. It's a journey that you're taking me on that, hey, your son will go to Harvard. It's a trust. The currency really is trust. And for us as BlackBerry, that's really what we embody as a company, that you do not buy products. It's the trust is really the currency that you are transacting with BlackBerry on. So there's no question about the benefits. I think everybody understands that happy employees bring happy customers. At BlackBerry, we call it the happy IT, happy employee dilemma. And many of the technical teams, IT heads and CISOs would understand that happy employees are difficult to get when you're trying to balance the security and productivity as a program in the company. But what are the risks around it? In terms of the education, I think there was a talk about culture awareness, what can be done, what are the challenges that are associated with the risks that come along with the digital transformation. And people do not have malicious intent. Most of the customers we consult, we've seen doctors sharing content, going to a Starbucks outside the hospital, trying to share a particular operation or a procedure that they couldn't share because the Wi-Fi was blocked for that consumer application. Now, the doctor is trying to do their job, and you'll be surprised in the healthcare industry how many nurses and doctors have mobile devices inside the hospital, inside the operation theater. There's a lot of collaboration happening there. So there's a lot of breach points in banking as well. When we talk about loan applications or digital branchless banking, the consumer data is actually being clicked. So think of a processor, you're clicking a picture in a remote village, that picture goes to a secure server, but what happens to that image on the device itself? Does that go to a Google Cloud? Does that go to a consumer app? Is that something that is, that privacy of that consumer, where is that being handled? So those are some of the specific things that really come up as unintended consequences of breaches. But in the name of security, people kind of sometimes treat productivity over security. So the goal of really, when you're going about a strategy on your protecting your mobile workforce is you've got to think about security as an overarching and built-in, embedded into your application, into your people, into your process. Knowing where your data is, knowing where your people are. People are pretty much the biggest factor for any company. At BlackBerry, all our employees are secured through our crisis management capabilities and not reliant on a specific person or a call that is made. It's all very automated in terms of, whether it's weather notifications to employees traveling abroad, whether it is any kind of a rally in a specific country that they need to avoid. And securing your assets, securing your people is one of the most critical aspects when it comes to your digital strategy. Because if somebody was to hold an employee ransom, you don't have to actually hack their systems. The employee will do it for you. And typically 80–90% of the breaches are always internal. Somebody left the door open. So when you're looking at your workforce protection, do not just think about that, hey, I've got to have a device, I've got to put a particular device manager on it, and I've got to have a file security or an email firewall. I think it goes beyond that. It's a more deep-rooted approach of security. It's really a philosophy and embodiment of that culture. So we can help you with those kind of strategies as we go along. In terms of just secure mobility, whoever is not aware what BlackBerry does, please do come and visit us. We'll be happy to talk to you through about what kind of case studies we've helped the insurance sector in and the banking world. But think about it as a layered approach. Do not think about security and securing your business or your people just with one particular policy. It really is about a layered approach. It's about buffering. Security business is all about how many buffers can you create. If the enemy is inside my house, can I make sure that they are deceived into looking the vault is there, not there? And that's where the way we develop our solutions and capabilities, many of our customers want to learn as to how BlackBerry has been able to secure themselves over the last 30 years. And if you thought that only banks were being targeted, think about a company called BlackBerry. There will be enough takers out there to put their hand up and say that, hey, I hacked into BlackBerry. But that has not happened yet. So in terms of financial services, really, the need, think about, that's where the business is. Think about a wealth manager or an insurance salesperson who has to access different Wi-Fis and go and make sure the customer experience is amazing. The time to market, I think there was talks of thousands and millions of transactions happening in a day. But really, what is the ambassador of your bank? Is that salesperson or that wealth manager or relationship manager, and these high-net individuals who are actually helping drive your business. So from our perspective, it has to be a very user experience-driven approach where you're not really having those clunky works of VPNs and clunky passwords and device management capabilities which are restrictive on usernames and passwords. BlackBerry's, if you think about device management, any of such capabilities, always been about limitation. Limit the microphone, limit the device, limit the camera. It's what you can't do. And when, psychologically you tell people not to do something, it's like talking to a kid telling them not to do that and see how that goes. And so the way we are developing our solutions is really about empowering employees, empowering the workforce. If an employee is in a safe zone using AI and behavior analytics, if an employee is coming to the office every day, swiping their card, being with the other employee through location, through their behavior at an employee level, do you really need a password? Because the person is already in the safe zone. However, if this employee goes to a lunch in Starbucks and logs into a Wi-Fi which is not a safe zone, you can then challenge it. So security has to be very contextual. It cannot be a deterrent that, hey, I have to, because people will find a way out. The moment it becomes too restrictive, people will find a way out to break it up. So, and that's how we've developed our solutions. Many of the banks in India and outside are leveraging our platform to develop custom applications to secure themselves with the level of encryption and how the apps talk to each other kind of an approach without the need of this clunky stuff that is prevalent. Just in summary, I always leave the team with an example of how Pooja, a very successful wealth manager, conducts her business. And Pooja she brings the money into the bank. She's the one who's running top 10 wealth high-net individuals. She has to work, she has to travel to golf courses and play golf with the customers and make sure that she's giving them helpful advice. She's got a real-time access into everything that's happening in the market. However, the security team is very concerned about Pooja, that Pooja may inadvertently leak out data that was not supposed to be provided. Or she may latch on to a particular Wi-Fi that has probably got rogue apps on it, who's got Trojans on it, and Pooja is not aware of it. And Pooja is also very much into having her own style statement because she works with those kind of individuals. Impressions matter. So she wants to have her own device. She wants to carry her device. She wants to change her device every 3 months, 6 months, and be able to demonstrate how quickly her bank can actually help their customers take decisions. So she's going through different applications. She's accessing her calendar, contacts, she's accessing her work applications. And how these applications are talking to each other is very critical for the security teams. Because believe it or not, applications talk to each other in a clear text. They don't talk to each other in an encrypted manner. So if I am a half-decent hacker, I don't even need to hack your app. I just snoop into what's happening between the two apps. So your credit card information, or your location, or where is the high net individual traveling next. We have customers who are concierge, high net individual managers. So their job is essentially not mortals like me, but people who are leasing jets where their locations are very critical information. So they want to have conversations with their customers in a secure way. If you think about banks like the leading global banks, they have banned consumer applications of their employees talking to their customers on those consumer apps. Without any names, we know which those consumer apps are. So how do you make sure that the bank is compliant, yet allowing Pooja to do her work? There's auditable and archivable tracing of what Pooja is doing with her customers, making sure she's giving helpful advice. But when Pooja starts to take a sabbatical to Harvard, she does not take the data away. And that's pretty much what our customers are going through. The time for device management and all this is gone. Most of the banks that we are working with today, they want to give their employees the user experience that they want to give to their customers. Because their employees are a great reflection of how their customers are going to consume their service. And if they are not giving them that access, that capability of using any device, accessing any personal space that they want to do, then how are their customers actually see that? But that is the balance that BlackBerry provides to our customers, whether it be in banking, insurance. Some of the names of payment gateways that were taken here have just adopted BlackBerry to secure their employees. In Mumbai, we've been able to secure some of the leading regulatory bodies here in India. And for me, being an Indian, coming back to India and seeing what's going on, it's really heartening. I'm really excited to be a part of this journey. And that's pretty much where BlackBerry is leading. There's lots we do, but if you have any questions, please reach out and we'll be happy to assist you guys. Thank you.